Hello again, everybody. Zacatech is here with my UFC 200 review for Saturday, July 9th, 2016. This is my first UFC review for pay-per-view in a long time, since April, since UFC 197. And we made it to UFC 200. Probably in everyone's mind, one of the most anticipated fight cards in UFC history. And even with a lot of hits taken to the card, especially with the main event, which changed 4 times within a span of 3 months, including, of course, the most recent hit just 3 days before the event. Even with all of that, with the card having a lot of bumps in the road, even the new main event fight almost getting canceled because the champion almost didn't weigh in because of the new rules with the cutoff. She almost barely made a cutoff time. When it comes to my thoughts on this pay-per-view, which included last minute replacement, the return of a former UFC champion that's currently WWE, and a shocking upset on main event, that's a decent card. Like, it could be a lot better, especially if some people were still on the card. But for what it was, UFC 200, I think 202 may be the real 200. Maybe people's eyes, especially you got McGregor Diaz, which was supposed to be the main event in the beginning. Until the debacle really truly began. The first fight of the main event were probably my favorite fights, because they had more excitement in. They were both 1-rounders, and there was more excitement in those 1-round fights than any of the other fights that went more than a round. Because the first fight was an exciting striking battle. Second fight was more of a thinking man's battle. Half fight not to lose. Fight for the Interim Championship. You had the third and fourth fight being mostly one-sided beatdowns. And then the main event, like I said, was a shocking upset, which could really, once again, change the face again of the women's bantamweight division. As you see by my subtitle as well. I'll give this pay-per-view a 6.5. Giving it that because of the great first fight and, of course, the shocking main event. Maybe not as shocking as other upsets in the women's bantamweight division, but still, it was a huge upset. I'm giving you that just because, like, if there was more exciting fights, maybe I would have rated it higher. So, there you go. We're on to our first fight of the main card. I saw a little bit of prelims. We had a heavyweight division. Cain Velasquez taking on Travis Browne. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of UFC heavyweight fights, because they've been mostly boring fights. You know, fight not to lose fights, not exciting. But when I saw it was Travis Browne in the fight, I had kind of hope. Because I saw Travis Browne in a very exciting fight last year at UFC 187 against Aldo, which was a striking battle. And it was a 1-rounder, but it was exciting. This was also like that, a 1-rounder and exciting striking battle. With Browne looking good early on, but then Velasquez went all over him as the former champion, trying to get back in the title with a dominating performance. Travis getting him down on the ground with the ground and pound and, of course, big punches, getting a TKO victory within seconds of the first round, and we thought we were going to go to the second round because Cain had him down like bubbled in the corner just seconds before the round was over. But the referee stopped it just before the final horn was blared. So Cain won with 3 seconds to spare. I just want 3.0. Because, like I said, it was probably, besides main event, the one was exciting fights and action, and good striking. A lot of stuff that some of the other fights very lacked. So then after a great opener, on to our next fight, which was the Interim Featherweight Championship. It's between Jose Aldo, the former champion, in one of his first fights since losing to the champion, of course, Conor McGregor. It was his first fight in 7 months since a devastating loss in 16 seconds. And he took on Frankie, Edgar, a guy he did beat when he was featherweight champion. Of course, we needed an interim champion because Conor McGregor is experimenting with the welterweight division, as he, of course, go up again against Nate Diaz at UFC 202. Before our next fight, I'll, of course, go through the timeline of the ever-changing main event spectrum of this card. So, this was more of a thinking man's fight. Both men, it was a good striking battle, but it was a term I use a lot. Decent action, not much excitement. Like, I thought Edgar was a little bit of an aggressor in this fight, but then Aldo got some good shots in. There was some takedown attempts, but it was a semi-fight, not the lose fight. Another term I use. Well, the two guys just won around each other and didn't hit each other for crap for 5 rounds. It was not exactly a fight at the lose because there was some action. Than a typical fight at the lose fight, but still, there was not much excitement in this fight. Like the action was decent, some good striking from both guys, but I kind of hate interim title fights. I also hate eliminated matches and matches involving the top 2 ranked guys because they kind of fight not to lose, and the guy who wins doesn't really deserve the fight because he didn't show it in the fight. He didn't show in the fight that he deserves the rematch or the match in general against the champion, who's of course McGregor. Kind of almost gave away the ending there, as Aldo won by an unanimous decision. Now, Aldo does earn. He deserves a rematch against Conor McGregor. He deserves a rematch, especially got beaten in 15 seconds. But he didn't earn that rematch tonight because he didn't show it. He didn't show that he earns a rematch against McGregor. Because his performance was just okay. It was not exciting. It was not a dominant performance. You know, I was like, who's winning? Because it was kind of almost even. Because Edgar gets some good shots in too. But Aldo's kind of elusive. Despite Edgar getting some good shots in. But Aldo had some more effective striking, especially bleeding up Edgar. So, I just want 2.7. Like I said, it was an okay fight. Could have been a little bit more exciting. You know what I mean? Like, these Indian fights and these number 1 and 2 ranked guys fights, I kind of don't like because they're mostly boring fights because they don't want to fight to lose. They fight not to lose, for the most part. There was more action in a typical fight not to lose fight. But that does not erase the fact that the guy who did win did not earn that shot. So to Aldo, when it comes to your rematch against the champion, there's only one chance to say to you, Connor's gonna kill you again. I know a lot of people will probably say that Aldo should beat the shit out of McGregor, and he talked a lot of trash to McGregor. McGregor was in the crowd. And I think a lot of people want to see that rematch, especially for those people who hate McGregor and his cocky attitude and want to see someone shut his mouth off. Will Diaz kind of did back at UFC 196 or 197. So, and he may shut him up again at UFC 202. So, but when it comes to shutting up McGregor in his own division, a lot of people may want Aldo to win to get revenge. But in my mind, cocky attitude and all, I think McGregor would beat Aldo. Because Aldo did not earn that match. Like, he could have earned it. And he deserved, but he didn't really show that he deserves it. It owns it. It earned it. Because the performance was just okay. So there you go. Now on to our next matchup. In the light heavyweight division. Of course, the continuing saga of Jon Jones. He needs to get fired. I'm sorry. I think a lot of people will probably agree with me. I have nothing against Jon Jones' talent. He's a great, badass fighter. But he's made so much personal mistakes. He may have fucked himself out of the UFC forever. So let's go through the timeline of the main event. Shall we? First main event was supposed to be McGregor Diaz 2. But it was pulled after McGregor refused to show up to a press conference, stating he wants to focus more on training. So after McGregor's ego got hurt and bruised because he didn't want to leave training, the fight was postponed, like I said, for 202. So came the new main event, Bones and Cormier 2, following Cormier pulling out of the originally scheduled 198 main event, which had Jonesy's return in the interim title fight against Oban St. Preux, which, like the interim featherweight title match, Jones didn't really deserve the win or earn the win because the performance was lacking. And it was, of course, blamed for the fact he hadn't fought in about a year. And then, of course, within days of UFC 190 up 200, Bones got cited for anti-doping by the USADA. So Bones fucked himself again. You know what I mean? And Dana White went off on Jones on Fox Sports. And he deserves it. You know, Bones is such a great guy, talented guy, and a great vicious fighter, but he made so many personal mistakes. You know, he fucked UFC in 190, in 187, robbing us of getting his ass kicked by Rumble Johnson. And also robbed us again in the rematch against Cormier. Because Cormier feels like he's not the true champion until he beats Bonesy, because he's just a champion by circumstances, because he won the championship when Jones vacated it. So if Jonesy fucking UFC and the fans again, Cormier was without a fight. But with 3 days' notice, Cormier did get a fight against Anderson Silva, the Spider, who has not fought in UFC since February, when he lost to the eventual new middleweight champion, Michael Bisping. And he was just recovering from gallbladder surgery. So I applaud Silva for taking this fight on a couple days' notice, you know, especially coming after surgery. But it is not to note the fact the fight was kind of a one-sided beatdown, like I mentioned. Cormier knew that Silva's a dangerous striker, so he used the same game plan he did against Rumble Johnson when he became the light heavyweight champion when Bonesy had to vacate it. Just pounding Silva with ground and pound and took him down. Like, they did stand up a little bit, but every time Silva tried to get some shots and standing up, Cormier went straight for the takedown. And he just pounded Silva, just smothered him. His nose got crooked a little bit, there was blood in his eye a little bit as well. Just Cormier just smothered Silva, which led to the unanimous decision victory for Cormier. This is a 3-rounder, this was not a title fight, because Silva was not ready for a full-on 5-round title fight in any division under a couple days' notice. I applaud Silva for taking this fight on notice, but you had to know that Cormier would be the favorite because he was ready, he was trained, he had a full camp and everything. He was not prepared to fight Silva, but he probably would have, I know a lot of people would have said he probably would have lost to Jones anyway, again, because Jones beat him the first time. But Cormier would have more attitude and more physicalness because he's the champion now, because he was the challenger last time. So with this fight, I'll give it a 2.5. Could have been a more exciting fight, but hey, who can blame these guys? This fight was made with 3 days' notice of the Bonesy fucked the company and the fans again. And like I said, he should be fired. You mean Bonesy may get suspended for this because his A sample and B sample got tested positive. So, there you go. I think he should be fired. So what's next for both these guys? Well, this does Anderson Silva maybe no favors when it comes to getting back in the middleweight title picture, especially when the new champion is a guy who just beat Silva back in February, Bisping. So this may do Silva no favors because he's lost a couple fights in a row. But Cormier needs a new challenger now that Jones is out probably for good. I hope. Because Bones may go to Bellator. That's my thing. Jones would go to Bellator and screw them. Because Bellator's already shot themselves in the foot. Because they suck now. So, there you go. So now on to our co-main event. Well, it was the main event. After the Bonesy situation, this fight was promoted to the main event at one point. Even with the fact it's a 3-rounder. But then the women's fight took the main event, which was a proper title fight. So it's kind of cool to have 2 women's title matches, main event, two UFC events in 2 days in a row. With the ultimate final finale main event of Joanna Jędrzejczyk, whatever her name is, against Claudia Gadelha, which was an awesome fight. Very exciting fight. Probably had more action in that fight than most of the fights tonight. So, co-main event involved the Super Samoan Mark Hunt taking on returning to the UFC for the first time in 5 years for a one-off as of now, the former UFC heavyweight champion and the former WWE World Heavyweight Champion, the Beast Incarnate, Brock Lesnar. When I found out Lesnar was returning, I was like stunned the heck that he would return to UFC, even for a one-off. It was so weird to see him in UFC to begin with. when he left WWE. But it was most weird to see him back on the contract with WWE and with full cooperation and cross promotion with WWE. WWE live streamed the weigh-ins, and you also saw ads for WWE products during UFC. You saw a commercial for WWE 2K17, which coincidentally Lesnar's on the cover of, and an ad for SummerSlam, because it just announced a couple days ago that Brock Lesnar is scheduled to fight Randy Orton. And for you wrestling fans out there who watch my UFC stuff too, SummerSlam's 4 hours again. Bad decision. Because I thought SummerSlam, because WrestleMania is 4 hours. WrestleMania is one of the big 4 pay-per-views of WWE. It deserves to be 4 hours. So last year they turned SummerSlam into a 4-hour show. And I think the 4th hour wasn't needed. In the end tonight, for SummerSlam, it said special start time, 7 p.m. So that means SummerSlam's 4 hours again this year. Which is not needed. But we'll see. So, enough wrestling talk. Let's talk UFC. In the return of Brock Lesnar, which I thought he was going to use his WWE theme song. But he used that the same man, his UFC theme song. It would have been interesting to see not just WWE theme song, but also Paul Heyman walk down with them. And a lot of people went on Twitter saying, Randy Orton should come in RKO from behind, but this ain't WWE, this is UFC. And like the Cormier fight against Silva, it was a one-sided beatdown. The first one was probably the most exciting round, because Lesnar got the takedowns and just pounded on Hunt, and it almost ended in the first. But it went 2 more rounds. Despite Hunt trying to get some shots in on Lesnar, just the power and the mass of Lesnar, because he weighed in, 265? Almost a pound over the heavyweight limit. It was crazy. He just destroyed Hunt with the takedowns and the ground and pound, kind of like what Cormier did to Silva. With Lesnar not getting hurt in the process, not harming a SummerSlam match, because I was like, especially with the SummerSlam match being announced days earlier, I was like, Lesnar may want to not risk injury. To not fuck WWE other SummerSlam card. With his injury, but he didn't get injured. 2.6. For the ones it was okay to see, it was interesting Lesnar back in UFC. Even at one night, I think Lesnar may want to come back full time. But we'll see how this goes. But he's still in the contract of WWE, and he'll probably return to WWE to of course, hype up his match against Randy Orton, who's been gone for a few months with an injury of his own. I think Lesnar's not been seen since WrestleMania in WWE programming. So now he's coming back for SummerSlam against Orton. I think the new Athletic Commission did say he has to be cleared by them before Lesnar can compete for SummerSlam. And Lesnar was more humble than at UFC 100. I saw both UFC 100 and 200. And Lesnar was on both. Lesnar main evented UFC 100 and gave a profanity-laden promo after the fight. But he was more humble tonight. And he hugged, in the cage, Sable, his wife. It's interesting to see Sable in there. Because not a lot of people know that Lesnar is married to Sable. Former WWE diva and former Playboy cover girl. I got that cover somewhere. Well, here's one of Sable's covers of Playboy with Tori Wilson, just to show that she was on Playboy once. Well, twice. I think more than twice. So there you go. Lesnar gets the victory over Mark Hunt, heading towards SummerSlam with cross promotion with both WWE and UFC. It's still interesting to see WWE stuff on UFC. Because people now compare UFC to WWE now. So there you go. And a lot of people who has not seen UFC probably got to see UFC for the first time just because of Lesnar tonight. So it got some extra buy rates. to make up for Bonesy being exited off the card. And now on to our main event. For the Women's Bantamweight Championship, Cupcake Meisha Tate in her first title defense against Amanda Nunes. Brazilian's last hope for the weekend. Because on Friday, Rafael dos Anjos, the last Brazilian champion in UFC, lost his championship in devastating fashion to Eddie Alvarez, the former Bellator lightweight champion. And then, of course, on Friday, that was Thursday. Yeah, Eddie Alvarez was Thursday. Then Friday, in Ultimate Fighter finale, as I mentioned, we had Claudia Gadelha falling just short in a tremendous effort against Joanna Joanna Champion. Some people calling her that. So I can't pronounce her name right. So Joanna destroyed Claudia in a great effort because Claudia destroyed the first 2 rounds. But then, like I said earlier, Joanna came back in the last 3 rounds with devastating striking. And she's a freaking beast. I've seen her before, and she's nasty. So, in this fight, Amanda Nunes tried to follow in the footsteps of Claudia Gadelha and being the last hopeful Brazilian champion this weekend by looking dominant early against Meisha Tate. Gives a good shots in. But instead of gassing herself out like Gadelha did, Amanda Nunes just went full steam ahead, getting some great shots in on Meisha Tate, clearing some nasty punches and a big knee, which bloodied up Tate pretty good. Yeah, Tate got cut up big time. And Nunes had on the ground a few times, going for a TKO, but didn't get the TKO victory. Instead, she did get it back on the ground, only to go for a submission attempt. A real naked choke, and got Tate to tap out. For the 3rd straight fight in a row, we had a new women's bantamweight champion in Amanda Nunes. The number 4 contender, because the number 3 contender, Cain Sagano, was featured in the prelims and lost tonight against former Ultimate Fighter winner Juliana Pena. So there you go. This is interesting to see a title change hands 3 fights in a row. Of course, yet home defeating Rousey. Tate defeating Holm back in March. And now Tate losing to Amanda Nunes, thus crushing another Rousey rematch. First, Tate ended any hopes of a Holly Holm rematch against Rousey when she comes back. And now Amanda Nunes has just crushed a Tate Rousey 3 match for the title. So, Amanda Nunes shocks the world. Not as bad as like Holm did when she beat Rousey, but still, it was a big upset for Nunes. Great effort. I applaud. It was a great main event. Even as one rounded, like I mentioned earlier, it was still more exciting than most of the fights in the card. 3.2 for this one, just because of the great finish and a big upset. So that leaves a big question. What's next for the women's bantamweight division now that the championships changed hands again? Especially with Rousey's return imminent. Now, Rousey may not be ready for the big UFC card in MSG, although Joanna wants to be a part of it. And I do agree she needs to be a part of it after that great performance against Claudia Gadelha at the Ultimate Fighter finale. Which was a decent event, by the way. A little bit better than 200. A little bit more exciting fights. Had more than 2. So, there you go. So, will Nunes defend against Rousey whenever that moment arises? Because some people say Rousey does deserve an automatic rematch. But here's what I think. Rousey should get a match in first before she takes on the champion, whoever that will be. And if it is Nunes, sorry, Amanda. Rousey's gonna kill you. Rousey's gonna kill you. Or should I say, Rousey's gonna tap you out. Rousey's gonna tap you out. Or knock you out, because she can do both. You know, Rousey can knock you out or tap you out with a signature arm bar. You know what I mean? But now, like I said, this whole women's bantamweight division's been flipped upside down, especially like when Rousey lost, that turned the bantamweight division on its head. And now with that, his title changes all in a row. You know, 3 straight fights, 3 straight new champions in the bantamweight division, the women. So, when Rousey returns, all bets are off. Especially with another new champion. And a new champion. A woman that I think has never faced Rousey. Because, like I said, you know, if Tate would have retained, it would have been Tate Rousey 3. And it would have been Holm Rousey 2 if Holm would have retained against Tate. Tate spoiling the rematch between Holm because Rousey wants revenge against Holm. That's what I think that could happen first. I think Holm's got a fight coming up. But I think before Rousey gets a title shot, she needs one fight in. It needs to be against Holm before she gets a title shot. She at least gets some revenge on Holm before she gets another title match. For the title that she believes she should have never lost. You know what I mean? So, it would be intriguing to see when Rousey returns. But when she does, she'll be gunning for not just Holm and Tate, but of course now the new champion, Nunes. And she could take on Juliana Pena, who took on and defeated, like I said, the number 3 ranked Kat Zingano on the prelims tonight. Because Amanda Nunes just ranked number 4 in the division. So what a big win and upset for Amanda Nunes tonight. And that is it for my UFC 200 review. Thank you so much. Once again, 6.5. If it had maybe 1 or 2 more exciting fights, it would have been more of a higher rating. So there I go with that. With that in mind, you've been attacked by the review from Zach. Thank you so much. Too sweet to you. Bye-bye.